Hello, my name is Yaya. Thank you for tuning into Trauma and God. Whatever darkness caused your trauma, I know from personal experience that healing from a black cloud of trauma is possible, but it takes time. Just as in nature, there's always sunlight behind a dark cloud, so it is for us. God is always there. We just have to find Him. In this series, I talk about things that hinder us from finding the light and things we can do that help us overcome obstacles. Today's subject is, how often should I look in the rearview mirror? We recently went on an 11-hour car journey across mountains and plains to visit our son and his family. We had good weather. It was not a difficult journey, just long. Having done this drive quite a few times, we have a routine. One of us will drive for about 2 hours and then we'll switch. We know where to stop along the way to get petrol, gas, to find clean bathrooms and to buy our snacks. We make our journey as enjoyable as possible. Well, at the beginning of the trip, we always talk for a while. We catch up on what we've been doing. And then when the passenger wants to rest before it's their turn to drive, all talking stops. And during that time, I found myself getting lost in my own thinking. Now, I consider myself a safe driver and regularly check my mirrors and speed, but it's been a while since I took my driving test. So I wondered, how often do driving instructors actually tell you to look in the rearview mirror? And I found I wasn't sure. When I came home, I did some research. Here's what I found out. Instructors say you should check all your mirrors roughly every 5 to 8 seconds. This includes your rearview mirror and the mirrors on either side of your vehicle. The rest of your time, your focus should be out of the front window. Here are some other useful tips. First thing to do when you get into a car is adjust your mirror so you can see. I was taught mirror signal maneuver as my memory aid before starting off or making any changes in my driving. As you drive, check your rearview mirror every time you stop, start, pass a car, turn, merge, switch lanes, pull over. If you're stuck in irregular or high-speed situations, you check more often. The mirrors help you navigate a difficult driving situation. Don't get tunnel vision by staring out of your front window too long on a long straight road and losing all your spatial awareness. Well, I've condensed some of the above down to 3 main reasons to look in the mirrors. 1, when making changes. 2, for spatial awareness. And 3, to anticipate a way out of a difficult situation. There's a balance. One should look out of the rearview mirror as a quick check. Our main focus is always out of the front and watching the road ahead. I began wondering if these principles could be applied to emotional well-being. There are those that say the past is the past and it needs to stay there. We only have to focus on the future. This is the equivalent of driving and getting tunnel vision by staring out front too long on a long straight road. It's not healthy. We become disengaged. It's a mindless place to be. We must not become unaware of what is around us. While others look in the rearview mirror and only see themselves, not what is happening behind them, they have the wrong perspective. Too much mirror time or self-reflection makes 1, It certainly makes me overly critical and even judgmental of myself. Too little mirror time, on the other hand, can make me stuck because I'm not looking at the opportunities I have to reflect on things and grow and change. So everything in life requires balance. Well, in spite of all my best efforts at spatial awareness when driving and my best attempts to avoid slow driving conditions, I've still at times got stuck in traffic jams. One time, a truck overturned ahead of us on a fierce bend of a freeway going up a mountain road. We only saw the truck when, hours later, police directed us past it. So no matter how much I looked in my rearview mirror and out of my front window, I could not have foreseen or prevented what lay ahead of us. We do not control life. Even when we have avoided getting stuck emotionally by trying to live a healthy, forward-looking life, events we've not foreseen come up on us or sneak up behind us. Suddenly we find ourselves in an overwhelming situation. And this is the emotional equivalent of a traffic jam. We can be stuck there for a long time and we barely move forwards. My mother and I lived on different continents for a great deal of my adult life. We communicated by email. The distance was really no problem as I didn't have a good relationship with her. A small part of this was my doing, but most of it was hers. Let me explain why our relationship was bad. Mother hated my husband. Hated was her word, not mine. She hardly ever said she loved me or even verbalized that she wanted to see me. She didn't care to have a relationship with my children or their spouses or even my grandchildren. She constantly compared me to someone else and that person's children, telling me how amazing and wonderful they were. Her words again. She was highly critical of my life choices, and hated, her word again, where we lived. Not surprisingly, I had many signposts around my emotions that said things like beware, danger, stop, no entry, thin ice. You can imagine. Well, after a long gap of no communication at all, I got an email from her saying how much she missed me and wanted to see my grandchildren, and that would be her great-grandchildren. Initially, I was very shocked and suspicious of her sweet tone. She was saying some things that I had longed to hear. More emails came, all reiterating how much she wanted to see me and my grandchildren. Our fourth grandchild had just been born. There was no mention of my husband or my children. I came to a very hasty conclusion and assumed Mother had totally changed. I thought Mother now loved me, missed me, and wanted to meet my family. I wrote a gushing email and set the ball in motion. As she hated, her word, remember, where we lived, it was arranged that we would meet where our son lived. I kept happily saying to my husband, miracles happen. I think God has changed her heart towards us. Isn't this fantastic? She loves us. The first thing she told us when we met her was how amazing, her word, it was to stay in the home of someone high up a corporate ladder. She then announced she had brought special gifts for all of us, except none for my husband. She apparently could find nothing for him. Not once did she mention that she loved me. She quickly made me feel that she was using us to advance herself in some way. After dinner on the first night, people were mingling between rooms, and Mother found me alone when all others were busy. She made a beeline for me and hissed her usual put-down comments at me and about those I loved. I knew then that her emails meant nothing. How could I have been so stupid as to believe that she'd changed? Why had I ignored all my warning signs? I felt like all my years of counseling were wasted. All my years of working hard to change my thoughts, my assumptions, my attitudes, my decisions to reflect God and to have a more, self-affirming and life-affirming stance all vanished. I was back to being a worthless, suicidal child. I told my husband how I felt, and he took my words seriously. By the time we arrived home, he had arranged residential counseling for me at a center far away. I would like to say that with the daily help of 3 counselors, I quickly got over my hopeless and suicidal thoughts, but I didn't. I became immobile in my own traffic jam. I forgot that God stands behind me to guard my back. When I looked in the mirror, the rearview mirror, I only stared back at myself. I became overly critical, very judgmental of myself for again falling into my mother's emotional trap. And I was afraid of what I might do to myself, and I was desperate to change. I came home and I started to see a wonderful counselor, but as good as her words were not enough. She encouraged me to see that God has been behind me, guarding and protecting me, and has seen everything that has happened to me. I finally got it. God never forgets. The intensity of our horror and trauma is not diminished, or lost, or forgotten by Him. And one day, He will do a reckoning on our behalf. So it's okay for us to let our memories fade. So if looking in the rearview mirror only means staring back at ourselves, I'm definitely not advocating this. There's far more to it than that. In our Bible, Psalm 135, verse 5 says, "You have enclosed me behind and before, and you placed your hand on me." The psalmist is saying that God is not only out in front, guiding our way, He's also behind, guarding our back. God stands behind me. It's quite a thought. When I look back, I choose to look at God because He has got my back. He's got me. To remember the basics when starting to drive, I say mirror signal maneuver. To remember the basics when looking behind at our past, I say God signal maneuver. For one thing, to see that God is standing behind us or behind me, guarding my back. And 2, when I make changes. 3, for spatial awareness. And 4, to anticipate a way out of a difficult situation. All these steps will prevent us from getting tunnel vision, which happens when we stare at ourselves in the mirror too long and lose all spatial awareness. Check in with God as much as you can. Look in the rearview mirror and see God stand behind you, to guard your back. He's also a barrier, filtering memories and only letting those through which he knows we can or should handle at a particular moment. Check in with him more frequently when you're in difficult or high-stress situations. God will send a signal, and by that I mean a message, and you will know how or when to move. If you can't see him or hear him, don't despair. He is there. You just need to keep searching until you find him. Let me remind you of the psalm I quoted earlier. Psalm 139 verse 5 says, "You have enclosed me behind and before, and you've placed your hand on me." God stands before you to guard, or stands behind you to guard your back. And he is a barrier filtering memories. When I look back, I choose to see him first, knowing that he's got me. He has always got my back. God stands behind you. Can you see him? Please subscribe and tell others if you found this vlog helpful. You may email me, Yaya, at traumaandgod@gmail.com, or read my personal story, Snakes in the Loo, at Amazon Books. If this stirs things in you, please reach out and talk to a mental health provider. Help can be found at the following: the Suicide and Crisis Helpline. Here it's 1-800-273-TALK. Or the Rape, Abuse and Incest National Network. Their helpline number is 1-800-656-HOPE. God is for you, and so am I.